These Trump-appointed judges are at it again, Harry, and they are ruling against Donald Trump in cases that you probably didn't expect them to rule against Donald Trump in. We've talked about a lot of immigration-related cases and Donald Trump disappearing to people to concentration camps in El Salvador. We've seen Trump-appointed judges stand up against Donald Trump there and issue some scathing orders. We've seen a Trump-appointed judge in Washington, D.C., Judge McFadden, issue the injunction against Donald Trump for blocking the Associated Press from entering the White House. Then Donald Trump said, okay, we're going to ban all wire services from the White House. We saw recently a Trump-appointed judge in Louisiana, Dowdy, saying, it seems like you just kidnapped a United States citizen, a 2-year-old from Honduras, and just deported a United States citizen back. And the Trump regime's like, no, we didn't do it. But Harry, we can geek out a little bit here and get into the weeds because there's this other case with this Judge Katsas. And just a reminder of Judge Katsas. He worked in the White House. He worked for McGahn. He was in Trump's White House general counsel's office. This guy was very close to Trump, Katsas. And when this DC panel was hearing a lot of these cases that had Pillard, Katsas, and Rao, one Obama judge, and then 2 Trump-appointed judges hearing a lot of these cases on an emergency basis, that's a tough panel in terms of if you don't want Donald Trump to win, because these 2 Trump-appointed judges often would side with Donald Trump. But here's a case involving, of all things, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, okay? The Trump's plan, first to gut it, then it got revised to reduction in force, and then they submitted another plan. And so after going through a few iterations of this, the Trump regime's doing this reduction in force revision to fire people at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, but doing it in a way that's not like the Doge wrecking ball day one type stuff with all of the emails that basically defame the people and say that they are all, doing horrible jobs. So they're trying to do it now with the pretext that they're doing it right. But even here, Katsas, Trump-appointed judge, joined Pillar, an Obama-appointed judge, and they halted this downsizing plan for now on an administrative basis. The other Trump-appointed judge, Rao, was like, what are you doing? This was our issue. Executive gets to do whatever he wants to do. Katsas, he issued this long dissent here.
Rao
Harry,
did, right.
But I want to get your take of it. But look, I'm not trying to compare this to the '78 World Series and say this is a home run for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But what I will say is that at least provides temporary relief.
It really does. And look, if you're going to geek out, the geekiest of geekiness is the DC Circuit, but it's a really important court. It's called regularly the second most important court in the United States. And all these cases have been originating in the district court, like Judge Boasberg for DC, and between that and the Supreme Court lies the DC Circuit. And it's geeky as can be because they're always getting these really arcane, boring, but important administrative law issues. But basically how things are served up. We saw in Abrego Garcia, for instance, the conservative judge, J. Harvey Wilkinson, joining 2 colleagues, and things are served up to the Supreme Court with a real sort of momentum. We've had other cases, including dating back to Trump 1.0, where it goes through the sieve of the DC Circuit and arrives there because the administrations, all administrations, even the Dems, are really careful about the DC Circuit. This is the court, by the way, where Merrick Garland was chief judge, and you really put your kind of, Clarence Thomas, you put your real sort of AAA players, Reggie Jacksons, to be on the DC Circuit. And why this matters is, you're right, the circuit is now majority Democrat. And we've seen, I think people kind of understand this, in a given month, you'll have a 3-judge court that basically hears motions, especially emergency things coming up, and those rotate. But we are now at the end period of a panel that has been 2 Republicans, Rao and Katsas, and 1 Democrat, which is an unusual state of affairs and probably will change in just a few days. But as you say, so Rao, not to put it too bluntly, but it basically to me seems to be saying, pick me for the Supreme Court with every single thing she says. She's a pretty solid pedigree. The newest guy, Walker, also is, he's the guy who actually first said you must do this in habeas corpus before it went to the Supreme Court. Katsas is just as you say, he's the Supreme Court credentialed, traditional kind of choice for a DC Circuit slot. A Merrick Garland, but Brett Kavanaugh was on that court. And I think it does say a lot. Now, you're right. In the actual thing we're talking about, it's pretty much in the weeds. It's a temporary stay so that they can think about it more, because to quickly summarize, what happened by the Trump administration was told, you can't just completely, bomb out the whole place. And they're now purporting to use a reduction in force, but in a way that it sure looks like. And Judge Amy Berman Jackson below said, you're doing the same thing. And the DC Circuit has simply said, we're going to freeze everything for now so we can look at it more closely. But that itself, that Judge Katsas on the DC Circuit joined that opinion, as other Republican, including Trump judges around the country have done, now that some of the extreme executive orders he's doing push so hard on the very notion of judicial power and really seem like suicide pacts for the judiciary. That's a pretty big deal and a pretty big portent, and we don't have to be third-year law students. So I know a lot of MeidasTouch listeners by now could pass the bar in a heartbeat after being educated by you guys for the last few years. But the big point is Katsas casts his vote with Pillard, who's a solid progressive Obama appointee, and not with Rao, who issues her long pick me when you next pick Supreme Court dissent, saying we shouldn't have even put it on ice temporarily.
It was interesting if you're reading the tea leaves of the message sent even by the United States Supreme Court, where they gave recently that standing ovation to Edwin Needler. Did you see that? The Deputy Solicitor General, nonpartisan guy, career guy, who's always been a law and order person, who resigned and just said, I can't basically work for this. He didn't say it as overtly.
No, I think he came to the end of his days. He is the ultimate professional. I'm such a geek, but this kind of brought tears to my eyes. They all stand up and give him a standing O. He's really what justice is supposed to be. Honestly, I think it was Seth Waxman, solicitor, said, I never knew his politics. And Harry Littman, who had the good fortune to work with him a few times, never did either. He is such a rule of law guy, exactly what the Trumpies aren't. But you're right. This happens. He finishes his opinion, and the court, where you have to be super silent, and if you, turn a page too loud, marshals shush you and threaten to take you out of court, had a standing O like in the 78 series. Amazing. And really that is the court, I don't know if Alito and Thomas will stay with it going forward, but that really is, we are rule of law guys. Needler, humble guy, took the bus to work every day for years and years, more arguments than anyone ever. And when you stand up for Needler, you're standing up for the rule of law. So both for Needler, but also for this whole ugly context that the Trump administration has brought on us, I was really heartened to read about that.
Yeah, at least sending a message, subtle or not, that the ball game is still the rule of law. And we'll see now, May 15th, mark your calendars, because we've got big democracy cases on nationwide injunctions and, real big cases May 15th. So we'll, of course, be following that every step of the way here. I think that's going to be the first really big test. Why did the Supreme Court grant certiorari on those specific cases? what kind of statement are they going to make? We'll learn a lot then. But we'll keep everybody posted every step of the
And
way.
give me just 8 seconds when we're talking Supreme. May 15th, we are getting toward the end of the term. And when a lot of people are waiting, will Thomas and Alito step down to give Trump a chance for yet more conservative but younger justices?
To be continued. Everybody, check out Harry Litman's Substack, YouTube channel, and podcast. They're all called the same thing, Talking Feds. So search Talking Feds on YouTube. Search for audio podcast, Talking Feds. Go on Substack, search Talking Feds. It's where I get my legal news from. You should too, Harry. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.